sell your favorite golfers. You will always find big money making opportunities on PropSwap. A few months ago, a prop swapper named Paul purchased a $100 Phil Mickelson champion ticket and made $30,000 on PropSwap. So be like Paul. Get in on the action and head to PropSwap.com today or download their free PropSwap app. PropSwap, where America buys and sells sports bets.
A Town Square media station serving all of South Jersey. This is 97.3 ESPN, home of the Philadelphia Eagles.
He is hit! He stumbles! He's down!
WENJ HD Millville, Atlantic City. This is Sports Bash Saturday with Josh Hennig, live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios. Now, Sports Bash Saturday. Here's Josh Hennig.
Sports Bash Saturday is live in your life here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, and of course, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just follow 97.3 ESPN. You want to watch the show live here in the Matt Blatt Kia Studios on 97.3 ESPN FM. Text board is open as always at 609-403-0973. We got a lot to get to today. You know, we are less than 20 days from the start of Eagles camp. Football is right. The Cowboys report next week, so do the Steelers. Also, the NBA Finals tonight, 97.3 ESPN, Game 5, series tied 2-2. Sixers offseason. It's turning into a dumpster fire, honestly, in the news cycle, because if you're not careful about who you're following and who you're getting your news from, you are going to get tricked real quick about what's going on. All right. We're going to get into all the Sixers and NBA final stuff coming up at 1 p.m. Kevin McCormick, Sixers writer for 97.3 ESPN.com, will join us coming up there. Also, I will address the latest fiasco with Conor McGregor today because I know a lot of people I've actually known a lot of people have asked me, well, what is this kind of, why is he saying this stuff? What is going on with him? So we'll get to that as well. Plus, Phillies split doubleheader yesterday. Kind of a disappointment. You big win. First game, second game, total dud. So with all that, by the way, you know what was cool yesterday? Jimmy Rollins on the Phillies broadcast for both games yesterday. That was a lot of fun to listen to. You know, Ben Davis is always there, whatever. But Jimmy Rollins getting a chance to do the game broadcast. I enjoyed that. I enjoy what he brought to the table. Thought that he brought a level of fun and energy and different perspective. You know, you can tell that him and Tom McCarthy, you know, they get along pretty well. So, you know, I thought that was a lot of fun going on with that broadcast yesterday. So I always enjoy when they have different people in the broadcast for the Phillies games. But either way, also don't forget FanDuel Sportsbook picks of the weekend. We will get to them later in the show as well. But to start off the top here, we got to talk some NFL because we are just days away from teams reporting to training camp. Okay? We are days away from having a situation where, guess what? You're going to have people back on the field doing their thing, out there doing work. And I'm genuinely excited to catch it all, okay? And I think it starts next week, you know, with the Cowboys and the Steelers. Obviously, they're part of the Hall of Fame game. And the news won't go away. This Deshaun Watson thing just won't go away. Just to bring a little clarity to what's going on. It was revived again because Adam Schefter on multiple shows this week, one in the Philadelphia area, one on television on Get Up with Greeny on ESPN television and ESPN radio. Adam Schefter brought up that if Deshaun Watson is to be traded, now this is the report, this is what he's putting out there. So he's not saying that Deshaun Watson is going to be traded. He's saying that if Deshaun Watson is traded, that he expects the Eagles to have the best chance to get him because they can offer the best package. Now, that doesn't mean the Eagles will get him, and things can change between now and whenever Deshaun Watson is made available. So I'm not going to play this game of assuming anything. But what I will confirm to you is this. I will confirm to you that it's a good sign the Eagles are willing to go after a Deshaun Watson. This has been rumored for months. Adam Kaplan, Jeff Mosher, Football at 4 on the Sports Bash, Inside the Birds podcast and the network, they reported this months ago. The Eagles have interest in Deshaun Watson. The problem is that Watson's legal situation is in complete flux, and we don't know when it will be out of flux. But I think that a lot of Eagle fans need to take heart in the fact that the Eagles are willing and interested and curious about Deshaun Watson, because it tells you that they're not content, they're not complacent, and they're not delusional. If Deshaun Watson is acquitted of all these legal issues and he's able to walk away, without any problem, okay, then he would automatically be the best quarterback in the NFC East if he was a Philadelphia Eagle. And I think the Eagles would go from being a mystery team to a perennial contender. And it's healthy for the Eagles, even though they won't come out and say that they want Deshaun Watson. The fact that there's so many people reporting the same thing tells you that this is realistic. And it's a realistic thing to keep in mind because it shows you, it proves to you that the Eagles are not delusional. They're realistic. They understand that Deshaun Watson is right now better than anything Jalen Hurts can be. That's not a diss on Jalen Hurts. That's not a negative against Hurts himself. It's about the fact that understanding the situation. The situation is that your quarterback position has had just so much inconsistency, so much turnover, so many different people in and out of this organization over the last decade plus. Think about all the quarterbacks now who have started games for the Eagles since Donovan McNabb was traded to Washington. I'm dead serious. Just think about all the quarterbacks who have started games. Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz last year. Nate Sudfeld has started a game for the Eagles, right? You're talking about a situation where Nick Foles has started multiple games in two different eras of the Eagles franchise. Michael Vick was here. Kevin Cobb was here. Sam Bradford, remember that experiment? I mean, you're talking about all these different players who have passed through in the last decade since Donovan McNabb was traded. It's been a lot. And it's been a lot of turnover. And the reason why we got to keep that in mind is because, by the way, I forgot about Mark Sanchez. Mark Sanchez started games for Philadelphia in the last decade. My goodness. I know I was forgetting somebody. Of course, I was going to forget somebody. I guess it was Sanchez, but also Vince Young started games. So you talk about the inconsistency of the quarterback position. You're always in search of a stabilizer. To me, the franchise quarterback is somebody who stabilizes your franchise. He's the guy that you can rely on to be out there each and every week to start games. To me, that's what the franchise quarterback symbolizes. That's what he represents. And for the Eagles, they were hoping Carson Wentz would be that guy. And they did get 48 starts out of him. It's not like they didn't get a lot of starts out of him. But just because you got some games out of him, 68 games out of Carson Wentz, not 48, 68. It doesn't mean that that was the solution. It didn't work out. You got to move on. Now, you can hope all you want that Jalen Hurts, and I think Jalen Hurts can be a good NFL quarterback. But if Deshaun Watson is acquitted of everything, if he walks away without any major legal ramifications, Deshaun Watson's a top 10 quarterback in this league. I would say he's even better than Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz at his best, I think Deshaun Watson's better than him. So, with that in mind, if you have a chance to get that kind of quarterback, you do it. You trade all the draft picks. You trade whoever else. Give him Andre Dillard. The Texans wanted Dillard years ago. Remember that? So the Eagles are self-aware. And the fact that they're self-aware about the quarterback position is important to keep in mind because they're not being naive. They're not being ignorant. They're not being flippant or whatever adjective you want to use to describe them. I believe Howie Roseman, when he said, and I only can take what he says because I can't always believe all these reports, that the Eagles saw something in Jalen Hurts that they couldn't pass up. So if you saw something in him, then this Deshaun Watson fiasco is the best case scenario for Philadelphia. Let Deshaun Watson spend the next several months figuring out his legal issues. Let him sit out the year. Let the Texans deal with the drama and the mess. That gives you an entire year to see what Jalen Hurts can do. Let's see what Hurts can do for a year. That's all I've asked from the beginning. All I've said from the beginning is give Jalen Hurts the same opportunities that you gave these other quarterbacks. Give him the same opportunities you gave Nick Foles. Nick Foles, who had 32 starts for the Eagles. Michael Vick, who had 40 starts for the Eagles. Give Jalen Hurts the opportunity, like Sam Bradford, who started 14 games for the Philadelphia Eagles. Mark Sanchez, who started 10 games for the Eagles. Kevin Cobb, who started 7 games for the Eagles. Give Hurts the chance to show you whether he is or is not capable of doing the job. Now, I personally think he can do it because all of these players and all of these evaluators all say the same thing about Hurts. He's a leader. Guys follow him. They listen to him. They connect with him. They engage with him. There's nobody who actually has met Jalen Hurts or has dealt with Jalen Hurts or knows people who know Jalen Hurts who has said anything bad about him. And remember, this young man is the son of a coach. He went to Alabama. You think Nick Saban doesn't have strict standards? Nick Saban may be more strict than Nick Sirianni is. Sirianni can talk all he wants about fundamentals and technique and playing the game the right way. But you know what? Nick Sirianni has never been a head coach in the NFL. Nick Saban has been a head coach of 2 different college football programs that won a national championship and coached the Miami Dolphins in the NFL and was a defensive coordinator in Cleveland under Bill Belichick. So Nick Saban has basically 40 years of coaching experience for us to go off of to say that Nick Saban is a very specific coach. He demands specific things of his men. And if he gave Jalen Hurts the check mark seal of approval, then you know what? I'm going to rock with that. And you know who else gave him the check seal of approval? Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley is the guy who takes in any quarterback he can find, who's got any talent. And Jalen Hurts was one of the best quarterbacks in college football. He was among the college football leaders in Division I in completion percentage and quarterback rating his 1 year at Oklahoma. 1 year. He went from being a running quarterback at Alabama, who lost his starting job at Tua Tagovailoa, who then stayed in Alabama to help Tua, then had to save Alabama's season by coming in the games when Tua got injured. He goes to Oklahoma, gets into the college football playoff. Now he comes to Philadelphia, and he has to take over for a guy who was supposed to be the franchise quarterback, who you had to trade to Indianapolis because he was a sensitive Susie. I say give Jalen Hurts a chance because you look around the NFC East, none of these teams are clear-cut favorites. The Cowboys, with Dak Prescott healthy, have the best offense in the division, hands down. Nobody can question it at all. And frankly, they may have the second or third best offense in the entire NFC, depending on how you rank the Rams and the Bucs compared to the Cowboys. I know some people might try to say the Cardinals, but the Cardinals don't have an Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. And they don't have the offensive line the Cowboys should have this year. The Cowboys are one of the 3 best offenses in the entire conference. But their defense is still suspect. I still have questions about that defense. I know they hired a new defensive coordinator, but Dan Quinn, he hasn't been a D coordinator in a decade. He's been a head coach in Atlanta. He was a D coordinator over there in Seattle. He's been head coaching Atlanta for years. We don't know what he's going to be as a D coordinator. We don't know about the Cowboys' talent. They have questions. They have players who we think can be good, but we still got to see it play out. Go to Washington. Washington is the best defense in the division. And they have a top 5 defense in the conference as well. They got studs up and down the field. Every level of the defense. They got some great players. Question is their offense. Ryan Fitzpatrick. Which version of Fitzmagic do you get? Do you get the guy who ran circles around the Eagles in Tampa? Or do you get the guy throwing interceptions like he did at the end of his Jets career? I don't know. We're going to find out. We know they have talent at the skill positions. Curtis Samuel, Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson. But I don't know what the quarterback situation is. Go to the New York Giants. They have tried to improve every level of their roster. They try to improve the defense. They try to improve the offensive line. They're hoping Daniel Jones lives up to the hopes and dreams of the fantasies of David Gettleman when he said, I fell in love with that quarterback. They're hopeful that Saquon Barkley is going to be 100% this season. He may not be. Although 80-90% of Saquon Barkley is better than still 80% of the league at minimum as a running back. But the question with the Giants is, do all the pieces fit together? You had Kenny Galladay to a wide receiver core that already has guys like Darius Slayton and Sterling Shepard. And then you drafted a receiver. How does Tony fit into all of that? You got a plethora of receivers now. How do you get them all on the field? How do you get them all touches? Will the Giants' attempts to improve the offensive line actually pay dividends? Or will Daniel Jones be running for his life again? They added talent on defense, but is it enough talent? Did they add enough talent on defense? And then you have the Eagles. Every conversation with the Eagles starts with if they're healthy. The Eagles were the second most injured team in the NFL last year behind the 49ers. They set an NFL record, a dubious NFL record, for most starting offensive line combinations in NFL history. They had so many injuries in the offensive line. They had so many injuries at multiple positions. It became just depressing to watch sometimes because you realize that they were going out there with guys who aren't even NFL roster guys. They're 4th preseason game guys. I got to get out of that mold, though. There's not a 4th preseason game this year, so I'll just say preseason guys. They got NFL preseason guys running out there, playing cornerback, playing a plethora of positions like offensive line, Brett Toth. Hello. So you have a situation where all of these injuries led to the Eagles' demise. They were the foundation of it. So are the Eagles healthy? Lane Johnson, Brandon Brooks. Are they going to be healthy this year? Who's going to win the left tackle job? Mailata, Dillard. Miles Sanders. You could argue he's a top 10 running back in the league, but he's used properly. He wasn't used properly last year. The Eagles still have talent on the defensive line. Javon Hargrave is probably going to be a better fit in this Jonathan Gannon defense than he was in the Jim Schwartz defense. And this is not the Y9 anymore. This is going to be a much different defense. How does that impact things? So there's a lot of layers that go into this for the Eagles. The NFC East is there to be had in many ways. It's just a matter of what ifs. And I'm looking forward to it. Again, the Eagles, less than 10 days away from the start of training camp. Cowboys and Steelers report the training camp next week. We'll have all the coverage right here on 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Seattle City, and 97.3 ESPN.com. I'm Josh Hennig here on Sports Bash Saturday on 97.3 ESPN. We get your thoughts and comments on the other side. 609-403-0973 is the text board. We're also live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We get your comments there as well. So Dan from EHT, Kyle over on YouTube with all your guys' thoughts, comments, and more. Don't forget, Kevin McCormick, Sixers beat writer for 97.3 ESPN.com and Sports Illustrated. Join us to talk about the Sixers offseason and the NBA Finals as well. We'll also get into the Phillies, FanDuel Sportsbook picks for the weekend, and more. Also to come right here on Sports Bash Saturday with yours truly, Josh Hennig, at Josh Hennig on Twitter, here on 97.3 ESPN FM.
This week on Sunday Night Baseball, the second half kicks off with baseball's fiercest rivalry, the Boston Red Sox at the New York Yankees. The Sox sit high atop the AL East, with the Yankees looking to bounce back from a disappointing first half.
We've dug ourselves a hole here. If you're going to climb back into it, we got to perform better.
They're going to have to do something, and they're going to have to do something now.
The Red Sox and Yankees. Coverage begins tomorrow at 6 Eastern. This is the play-by-play home of Sunday Night Baseball, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM.
On some models excludes Corvette with GM financing, excludes prior sales. See dealer for details.
By now, most people know that nobody beats a Bennett Chevrolet deal. Because when you buy a new Chevy from Bennett, you pay the same as any GM supplier employee pays. That's right, not 1 cent more. Plus, Bennett gives you all the rebates that can add up to 25% off MSRP. That's up to 25% off. And of course, Bennett Chevy has 0% financing available. Think about all the ways you save at Bennett Chevrolet. Plus, right now, we want your trade. So we're paying a minimum $7,000 for any clunker. You heard right, a minimum $7,000 towards any pre-owned in stock. Nobody pays more than Bennett. You can imagine how much more we'll pay for a good trade. And there's more. You'll never feel any sales pressure and never waste time with stressful negotiating, because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Nobody beats Bennett Chevrolet, and we mean nobody. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy at Hubbard Township and BennettChevy.com.
I'm New Jersey Secretary of Agriculture Doug Fisher. Whether you like them sweet or spicy, Jersey Fresh bell and hot peppers liven up any dish, and they are in season now at your favorite farm market, farm stand, or supermarket. Stay loyal to local Jersey Fresh peppers.
This is Sports Bash Saturday with Josh Hennig, live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios. Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here on Sports Bash Saturday here on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can watch the show, join the conversation as we are live in the Matt Blatt Kia Studios here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Text board is always 609-403-0973. Listen on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. 609-403-0973 is the text board. We'll get to your thoughts and comments there in just a moment. I just want to remind you guys, make sure you go to 973ESPN.com, 973 ESPN mobile app. This week's Top 10 Thursday and Fitness Friday articles by yours truly, Josh Hennig, are over on the website and on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. A little fun this week with the Top 10 Thursday. Greatest Phillies All-Stars. The prerequisite is that how many multiple All-Star appearances did you have with the Phillies? I think some people will disagree with the list. I love to hear the disagreements. At Josh Hennig on Twitter, or you can chime into the show throughout the hour today. And, of course, the Fitness Friday is there each and every week to give you thoughts and tips about how you can live a healthier lifestyle that doesn't cost you a lot of money, basically. That's kind of like the shtick with that. As promised, we're going to get to your guys' thoughts and comments. Again, YouTube, we are live, Facebook, Twitter, also the text board, 609-403-0973. We'll get to what Kyle and Steven has to say in just a moment. But first, the text from Dan and EHT at 609-403-0973. Dan says, come on, Josh, you got to play quarterback at Bama or Oklahoma and do good. The Eagles know what Hurts is. Watson is top 5 quarterback, automatic 10 wins for the next 10 years. A couple things, Dan. First of all, I never said that Hurts should have the job and you shouldn't trade for Watson. I said at the beginning of the show that the fact that the Eagles are cognizant and self-aware enough to say that Hurts is not Watson, it should already be a sign that the Eagles' willingness to upgrade the position whenever possible. My whole point is, because Watson has these off-the-field issues right now, I would like to see Hurts get a full opportunity to play this year and then evaluate after this year. Go in the next year and say, hey, Texans, you want to trade for Watson now? That's what I would do. That's what I would hope would happen, because I just want to see the young man get the same opportunities that every rando who has come to this organization in the last 10 plus years has gotten as well. You've had 2 first overall picks, a second overall pick, multiple second and third round picks, all start games for this franchise in the last decade plus. Why can't Jalen Hurts get the same number of opportunities that all those other guys got? That's all I'm saying. I know that Watson is better than Hurts. I said that at the beginning of the show, Danny HT. Don't be ridiculous. But you're also being ridiculous when you say that I could play quarterback for Alabama and Oklahoma and do good. That's an extremely naive take. Okay? First of all, Alabama has very, very high level of requirements for their players. You have to have a certain level of excellence in the classroom, and there's certain expectations placed on you on the field. Not anybody can play quarterback at Alabama. I know there's a perception that they just churn guys in and out of there. That's because the coaching staff at Alabama is so elite, they can change anybody into anything. And then Oklahoma has had Heisman Trophy winners and Heisman runner-ups come through there, including Jalen Hurts, Baker Mayfield, and Kyler Murray. I'm supposed to believe that anybody can play Oklahoma and then be a Heisman Trophy candidate? Come on, Dan, you're better than that. That's 2 ridiculous comments in one day. One comment, you weren't listening well enough, what I was saying. And the other comment, first of all, I can't even throw a football that well. All right, let's be realistic. I'm not even tall enough. I'm closer to Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray than I am Jalen Hurts and those other guys. Come on. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. Get on the conversation. Let's go over to the YouTube channel. Got some comments popping in there. Kyle Dubray starts the convo by saying, no charges have been filed against Watson. They won't be, but I would like Hurts to work out and be the guy. Again, it's not about charges specifically against Watson. He has 20 civil suits against him, and supposedly the Houston police have spent 3 months investigating. So he's got off the field issues. Okay, if you want to nitpick, that's fine, but he's got off the field issues. But I'm with you. I too would like to see Hurts work out. Okay, Kyle Dubray also follows up and says, based on pure resume, is Jalen Hurts not the best former Bama quarterback in the league? Bama isn't producing Pro Bowl quarterbacks. I mean, depends on how you want to contextualize that. I mean, some people would say that Tua is the best quarterback talent to come out of Alabama. You know, Mac Jones was a Heisman Trophy candidate. I think Hurts is certainly better than A.J. McCarron and Greg McElroy. You know, the last great Alabama quarterback in the NFL, you got to go back decades. Talk about Joe Namath and Bart Starr, for goodness sake. In recent decades, Alabama quarterbacks haven't done so well in the NFL. I think that if Hurts, I personally think Hurts has a chance to be as good, if not better, than Tua Tagovailoa's potential, purely because of the fact that I don't know if Tua can stay healthy. Mac Jones, I don't know what to think of him. To me, you ask some evaluators, they say he's a system quarterback. Other evaluators say he's an amazing leader, okay? It depends on who you ask. So, Alabama quarterbacks are an interesting situation. But Jalen Hurts does have the resume, as Kyle said, to be a good NFL quarterback. I just think that I want to see them give him a chance. That's my big thing. So many times we don't want to give guys a chance to go out there and get the job done. And to me, that's kind of where I'm at when it comes to Jalen Hurts. I think he could be a good NFL quarterback, and I would like to see him get the opportunity to go out there and show what he can do before we're judging whether he can play or not play in the NFL. Overall, so also on the YouTube channel, Steve Garrison. I'll get to your. See, I'm gonna get to your Eagles stuff first, and then I'll get to your Philly stuff after that. Okay, but I want to get first to the Eagles thing. We're talking about that right now. Steve says on the Watson to the Eagles, I think they should stay away. They should stick with Hurts and see what they got in him. Listen, I'm with you guys saying you should give Hurts a chance. The Watson thing is complicated because this is a franchise that gave Michael Vick a second chance. They were the only franchise at first who was willing to give him that second chance. And Michael Vick came in humble. He wanted to learn. He did everything he could to be a successful NFL quarterback. But thanks to injuries and a head coaching change, he was never able to really get as far as he wanted to. If you listen to the Inside the Birds podcasting network, Jason Avant and Quentin Michael have a podcast they drop every Wednesday. And in the pod, Jason Avant tells an amazing story about his experience with Michael Vick, about how Michael Vick was learning to play the quarterback position, but his development and his evolution was stunted when the Eagles organization wanted to make the switch from Jamal Jackson to Jason Kelsey. And that Jackson and Vick had a connection that Vick didn't have with Kelsey, and that impacted his ability to be a quarterback, which ended up forcing Vick to either not play games or get injured. So, not that it's Jason Kelsey's fault, zeal to do all things Chip Kelly all the time that put Vic in a position to not be successful. The point is that the Eagles gave Vic a chance. Why can't they give Deshaun Watson a chance? But it's a difficult situation because it's not like anybody was, picketing outside of Citizens Bank Park when Odubel Herrera got brought back to the big leagues. Now, some people would say that's because he, quote unquote, paid his dues, right? He was suspended for multiple years. He was out of the league. He wasn't making money. He went through the public embarrassment, right? Michael Vick, he went to jail. He paid his debt to society. We don't know what's going on with Deshaun Watson yet. And until the Deshaun Watson situation is rectified, I think there's going to be a lot of fans like Steven Garrison who look at Deshaun Watson and say, I don't want to deal with this guy. I don't want this this potential black mark on my team, on my franchise. They don't want that scarlet red letter on their player, on their team. There were a lot of teams that didn't want Greg Hardy. The only one team wanted him initially was the Cowboys because he was accused of not just hitting a woman, but doing strange, abusive things to her in the process of their dysfunctional domestic violence relationship. Now Greg Hardy's in the UFC getting knocked out because every heavyweight on the planet wants to knock him out because they consider him an embarrassment and a joke. They don't respect him. They don't like the fact that an accused woman beater gets a chance to be a UFC fighter. All these guys want to knock him out. We saw it last weekend with Tai Tuivasa. So, when it comes to guys who have these off the field issues and accusations against them, the problem for Watson is that he falls into a gray area because the league blackballed Ray Rice. They never gave him another chance. The league eventually pushed Greg Hardy out of the league entirely, and neither one of them went to jail for their crimes. They were accused of things. Look at Kareem Hunt. He got punished for a while, but they eventually brought him back, though. So the NFL has a very strange history when it comes to guys in committing crimes off the field. Domestic violence is very hit or miss with the NFL. Okay? But Dante Stallworth was drinking and driving and killed somebody, went to jail for 30 days, missed a year in the NFL and was let back in. The whole thing is just very sketchy. Now, yes, Jersey P is right over on the YouTube channel. It says, but the thing is, Watson was never charged. But you're not hearing what I'm saying. It's the optics. Do teams want to deal with the optics? Greg Hardy and Ray Rice never went to jail. But they have been aggressively pushed out of the league. All right? Because they were both, quote unquote, caught in the act. Ray Rice was caught on film. Greg Hardy, there's documented evidence, but the woman didn't want to press charges. So, the police are stuck in between a rock and a hard place in those situations. But the NFL says, well, we're going to be the moral arbiter here. So we're just going to tell both of you to leave. So if Deshaun Watson is never charged by a criminal court, that's fine. But those civil cases could still go through. He could still have to pay some sort of, damages financially. And the NFL could decide they're going to be judge and jury. And Kyle, I said this. Look, Vic went to jail. I agree. But the Deshaun Watson situation has not played out yet. And the fact it's taking so long to play out is fishy. I don't care who you are. If a case is open and shut, those things get figured out real quick. When Kareem Hunt was caught on film just knocking out that woman in that hotel, he was real quick kicked off the Chiefs, charged by the police, etc. That happened real quick. The fact this is taking so long makes me wonder what's really going on. Because for that many women to accuse one guy of the same thing, either he is really a creepy weirdo, or there's a lot of women who are unhappy with him and how their relationships went. And whatever the situation is, it's not on us to be judge and jury until we have more information. Jersey P follows up and says, I see what you're saying. It's like the Colin Kaepernick situation. A little bit. The problem with Kaepernick was people forget that part of the reason why Kaepernick is not in the league is because when he became a free agent, when he had his interviews with Seattle and Baltimore, and when Buffalo called about him, coming in as well, he told them that he wanted to compete for the starting job and he wanted to get paid as such. So Kaepernick decided very early on that he was not going to play in the NFL unless he was getting starting opportunities and or he was getting paid a certain amount of money. And that information has never been disputed by anybody. So at the end of the day, people can talk about Kaepernick all they want about the political stuff, but the reality is that he told the Seattle Seahawks that he wanted to compete for the starting job, and the Seahawks said, nah. Russell Wilson actually has a ring. You don't have a ring. And Russ has been there twice, and you only got there once. Then there was a whole fiasco with his then girlfriend. I don't even know if they're still dating or not, but his then girlfriend basically accusing the Ravens of basically acting like, the people from Django. If you ever see the movie Django, the characters of Leonardo DiCaprio and Samuel L. Jackson, that was Steve Bisciotti and Ray Lewis. So that got him into hot waters. The Ravens were like, oh, we don't really want this guy. Then the Buffalo situation, apparently he wanted a certain amount of money. The Buffalo wouldn't pay him that money. So the Kaepernick situation is very complicated. And I think people forget that there was a lot of stuff that were football related that prevented him from maybe having the situation that he should have had. So, but it's important to bring up Jersey P. And I'm glad you brought it up because, obviously because of the world we live in, there's so much complexity. Not every quarterback who is not even quarterback, not every player is an off the field situation is monolithic, right? I mentioned Dante Stallworth. The dude was drinking and driving and killed someone, but he was let back into the NFL. I mean, but Greg Hardy and Ray Rice never went to jail and they got kicked out. So let's be realistic. Like, the NFL mishandles this stuff all the time. I ain't going to lie about that. I am not going to sit here and act like the NFL has got it all figured out. You know how people say the NFL stands for not for long league or not fun league? I also think that the NFL stands for not fully legit because they don't even know what they're doing half the time. It is just so messy how they handle things. It's just ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. Oh my goodness. 609-403-0973 is the text board. By the way, I love the conversation going on between you guys over on the YouTube chat. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. You can watch the show, join the conversation as well. I'm going to scroll up and get one more comment in before we get the break. You guys can keep commenting. I'll get to them as they come in. Earlier in the comment stream, James commented and said, how about Xavier Howard from the Dolphins? Be a great move for the Eagles. Here's the problem with the Xavier Howard situation. The fact that the Dolphins haven't traded him yet, or that they haven't fully engaged with teams about trading him, it just makes me wonder, okay? I know that. So for those who don't know, Xavier Howard, the cornerback for the Dolphins, who's arguably one of the best corners in the league, had a very strange social media posts recently. Okay. I don't know if you guys know about this, but he basically said on Instagram and on one of his stories that, and I'm just going to read you the quote. All right. They won't realize how big a part you play until you're not there to play it no more. This is one of many strange things that Xavier Howard has done on social media. He also took the Dolphins off of his Instagram description, and now it's been replaced by IamXavierHoward.com. He deleted a bunch of his pictures and videos of him playing and practicing and working out. Now it's mostly just pictures of his kids. The whole thing is just so bizarre. So I don't even know if Xavier Howard wants out of town or if he's going through a social media purge or what is going on. But that dude has got some weird stuff going on. And if he was available, I'm assuming the Eagles have already called the Dolphins if he was available. The Eagles have made multiple deals with the Dolphins over the last decade. So I would assume that if Xavier Howard's available, a lot of teams are calling about him. If I'm the Eagles, you got to go out and try to figure out maybe how to sign a free agent as well. Because even if you acquire Xavier Howard, you need more depth. You have guys like Dre Kirkpatrick and Steven Nelson still hanging around out there looking for NFL jobs. And if you believe the reporting out there, Steven Nelson and Dre Kirkpatrick both want more money than teams are willing to give them. So, again, the whole Xavier Howard thing, I'm not fully sure what exactly is going on. I don't even know if he really wants out of Miami. Maybe he's just sensitive and he wants somebody to give him a hug when he gets in the training camp. I don't know. Listen, maybe it's something to do with the COVID regulations. Maybe he's mad that they don't give you more freedom in this semi-post-pandemic environment. I don't know. Xavier Howard is not really being very specific when it comes to what he wants. So, I don't even know if Xavier Howard's an option, James. I would love him in the Eagles uniform, but I don't know if he's coming here. I don't know the Dolphins are willing to trade him. If a guy doesn't show up to camp, that team has the right to dock him pay. Remember, Le'Veon Bell lost more money in that year he sat out with the Steelers than he made the next year with the Jets. He didn't make the money back like he thought he was going to. So Xavier Howard, what if he is mad at the Dolphins and he sits out and the Dolphins will get the offer and the trade that they want? They can just dock his pay every week and he'll lose money. Just saying, there's a lot of layers to this stuff going on. Josh Hennig here, Sports Bash Saturday, 97.3 ESPN. A lot of fun conversation. We do get to Steven's comments about the Phillies a little bit later in the show as well as other comments. I see Jeff Bone and Pookie has slid into the comment stream as well. Of course, don't forget Kevin McCormick, Sixers beat writer, will join us at 1 o'clock to talk Sixers offseason, Ben Simmons, NBA Finals, and more. A lot to get to here. Josh Hennig, Sports Bash Saturday, 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank of Seattle City. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. And like I said, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Join the conversation. Watch the show live in the Matt Black Kia studios right here, 97.3 ESPN FM.
The NBA Finals continue.
Booker, body by Tucker, lifts it for the rim. One shot by Giannis on the alley-oop for Tim.
After dropping games 1 and 2 in Phoenix, Giannis and the Bucks respond with 2 straight in Milwaukee. Now the series returns to Phoenix for a pivotal Game 5. Game 5 of the Suns and Bucks. Coverage begins tonight at 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
The NBA Finals, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM, South Jersey's sports leader.
Tired of sitting in traffic? If you won the $150 million Powerball jackpot, you could take your private jet anywhere. After all, anything can happen in Jersey.
Prop Swappers, it's time for the British Open, and it's your last major chance this year to buy and sell your favorite golfers. You will always find big money-making opportunities on PropSwap. A few months ago, a prop swapper named Paul purchased a $100 Phil Mickelson champion ticket and made $30,000 on PropSwap. So be like Paul. Get in on the action and head to PropSwap.com today or download their free PropSwap app. PropSwap, where America buys and sells sports bets.
This is Sports Bash Saturday with Josh Hennig, live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios. Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Coming up on the 1 o'clock hour, Kevin McCormick, Sixers beat writer for 97.3 ESPN.com and 97.3 ESPN mobile app, will be joining the show. Also, I got to let you guys know, you guys are asking some great questions and great points over in the YouTube chat today. And Steve, I want to let you know, you've asked two very different Phillies questions. One about Aaron Nola and the one earlier about Byron Buxton. Both of them are great questions. We're going to get to both of them the next hour because I don't want to shortchange you on those answers. So we're going to take the time before we bounce out of this hour to get through some of the more of the football comments, and then we'll get to the Philly stuff next hour. Because, Steven, you asked two very, very pertinent questions. I want to get to both of them in the next hour. Before we get out of here in this hour, Jeff Bonapookies jumps in. Good to always see Jeff join the conversation. He says, I thought Jeffrey Lurie co-signed on Jalen Hurts being our quarterback. This whole thing is crazy. So here's the thing, Jeff Bonapookie. So Jeffrey Lurie, the report was that he told the Eagles organization to build around Jalen Hurts. But the Eagles have also been an organization that has always been, Brett Brown said he was always star hunting, right? Well, the Eagles are always quarterback hunting. As I said earlier in the show, Jeff, this organization has been looking for a franchise quarterback since Donovan McNabb got traded to Washington. They tried Kevin Cobb. They tried Michael Vick. They tried Sam Bradford. They tried Nick Foles twice. Carson Wentz. They had a cup of tea with Vince Young and Mark Sanchez. They've run through a lot of dudes in this organization, but they're still in search of that guy. And Deshaun Watson, if he is vindicated on all these off-the-field issues, he's a top 10 quarterback. So for the Eagles, they would love to have Deshaun Watson. But yes, Jeffrey Lurie did tell the Eagles organization, we need to build around this young man. I don't want a outright quarterback competition. That was a report that came out months ago. So, and guess what? They did that. You don't think they signed Devonta Smith just because? Of course they traded up and got Devonta Smith. He played with Hurts at Alabama, all right? According to reports, Hurts actually hosted Devonta Smith on his visit to Bama. So you got him another wide receiver. You're making sure the offensive line is stacked for the young man. You brought in a head coach who has a history of working with different quarterbacks. Remember, Nick Sirianni had 3 different starting quarterbacks in Indianapolis when him and Frank Reich were together there. Phillip Rivers, Jacoby Brissett, Andrew Luck. And then before that, Sirianni was in a Chargers offense that worked with a lot of different running backs, worked with a lot of different receivers. So Sirianni and his coaches was brought in here. Don't forget, Brian Johnson, the quarterback coach at Florida. So he was offensive coordinator at Florida. He's the quarterback coach here. Was Dak Prescott's coach at Mississippi State. And he also has known Jalen Hurts since Jalen Hurts was a kid. So the organization has co-signed on Hurts being the quarterback. But you have a chance to get Deshaun Watson. If he is vindicated, I don't blame the Eagles for checking in on it. Speaking of news, we got to get this Ben Simmons Sixers stuff next to Kevin McCormick, 97.3 ESPN.
Health Update with Robin Stoloff, brought to you by Comfort Keepers, all the comforts of home.
It's time to get your grill on. What's summer without a cookout? If you're hosting a get-together, you want to make sure you do it right. Here are some tips from the grill company Weber. Preheat the grill with the lid closed for 10 to 15 minutes. It loosens any bits of food on the grate and makes for more even cooking. Keep the grill clean to keep food from sticking. It's easiest to clean with a stainless steel brush while it's still hot. Put oil on the food, not the grate. Keep the lid down while cooking to sear the food, speed cooking time, and prevent flare-ups. If you're using a charcoal grill, skip the lighter fluid. Who wants foul-smelling chemicals under their food? Chimney starters and lighter cubes are much cleaner and more effective. Finally, use a grill thermometer to make sure your food is cooked properly. Following a few simple grilling guidelines will make for fun, safe, and delicious barbecues all summer long.
Brought to you by Comfort Keepers, all the comforts of home. Visit ComfortKeepers.com for your free consultation.
South Jersey's home of the Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
I am the voice of the voiceless.
97.3 ESPN, WENJ, WENJ HD, Millville, Atlantic City, a Town Square media station. This is Sports Bash Saturday with Josh Hennig, live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios. Now, Sports Bash Saturday. Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here, 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, and we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. We got a lot to get to today on the show. We have a ton of comments to get to on the YouTube side. We will get to all of you guys a little bit later this hour. I thought that Steven Garrison over on YouTube has brought up not one but two great Phillies questions that I'm going to get to a little bit later in the show. But as promised, right now, we got to touch on the Sixers, NBA Finals, and more with my man. Kevin McCormick is back on the show. He has done his homework. He has watched every movie I asked him to watch, and he now joins us here on Sports Bash Saturday on 97.3 ESPN. Kevin, how you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm glad that I'm back in your good graces now that my movie checklist is completed.
All of you ever not in my good graces, I was just a little surprised that somehow I had a time to see some of these movies and you didn't. So that was all.
It is what it is.
So obviously we got to get to some of the Sixers Ben Simmons stuff because this stuff is bonkers. I want to start though with the bigger macro story, which is all week there were these random weird reports about Damian Lillard, right? And there's all this speculation. And then Lillard comes out yesterday and says, I did not request a trade. Don't believe anything unless comes out of my mouth. And he was asked outright, do you expect to be in Portland this year? He said yes. But then he pulled a Russell Wilson. And he says, for those who don't know, Russell Wilson tried to pressure Seattle into improving this offseason. So Damian did the same thing. He's like, look, there's got to be some things done with this team. There's got to be some improvements to the roster. Now, apparently, Damian Lillard is meeting with the GM, the new head coach, before he flies to Tokyo for the Olympics. So at least he got his meeting out of it. So to me, can we finally accept the reality that Damian Lillard to the Sixers is not happening anytime soon?
No, I actually almost completely disagree with you. I mean, let's be honest. Through all of this, guys just understand how the business works. It is a game. There is going to be smoke and mirrors. And this is all this is. I mean, we've been talking about for years Damian Lillard wanting out of Portland, or not wanting out of Portland, but people have wanted the Damian Lillard sweepstakes to happen year after year, but he's remained loyal. And it really feels like we've hit the straw that broke the camel's back with all the stuff that's going on. And with him denying the reports and stuff, that's all just keeping Portland's leverage, because if he really wanted out, he has to play the game. And then playing the game, you have to, make sure that your team retains leverage. It's not going to be this hardened situation where he's going to pretty much, pout and stomp his way out and then Portland gets nothing in return. They're not going to trade him that way. He's under contract for 4 more years. He needs to play ball. We literally just went through this whole thing with Ben Simmons. Remember not 2 weeks ago when Rich Paul went to Chicago to talk with Daryl Morey and Elton Brand, and no trade request came about, and now Shams is reporting that the Sixers have, begun opening conversations. It's all leverage. It's all teams trying to put themselves in the best position to move these pieces.
You walked right into what I was trying to say, though. See, Shams and Mark Stein and some of the biggest names who cover the league reported about the Sixers looking to trade Ben Simmons, right? Random dudes on Twitter were reporting about Damian Lillard trade request. I can't trust random dude with, I don't know who he is, on Twitter saying, I've been told about this. There's a huge difference to me. And for Damian Lillard to come out and say what he said, it didn't sound like a guy who's saying, I want out of here. It was a guy saying, I'm drawing a line in the sand. If you step over that line, I want out. But if you give me what I want, I don't mind being the next Giannis. I don't mind being like these other guys and saying, you give me what I want to be here.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. With the, if you scrolled through Twitter yesterday, I completely agree. You could have found 50 different tweets of Damian Lillard being linked from every team to the NBA to the Shanghai Sharks. So, I mean, you could have found whatever. But when Chris Haynes was reporting about Damian Lillard, I 100% believe that he is getting it from the source. In his interview with Damian Lillard, there was some very telling stuff there for those who haven't checked it out. So I agree with you. He may not fully want out at this point, but reading the tea leaves, it's clear that it is very close. And depending on how that meeting with Chauncey Billups and the front office goes, maybe we do see it. So in terms of it being a pipe dream or completely unreachable or it's never going to happen, I don't know if I've hit that point yet. I really do feel like we could see a Damian Lillard sweepstakes coming very soon.
Okay, well, we'll agree to disagree, but at least we're not that far apart on the point. How about that?
I could agree to that.
Okay. So now with that being said, I do think Portland makes a trade this offseason. And I think the Sixers make a trade this offseason. And listen, I think that the Sixers are going to trade Ben Simmons. I am convinced of that. I don't, you've heard my theory before. For those who haven't heard it before, you're driving in your car down the Jersey Shore. You're like, who is this idiot on the radio? At Josh Hennig on Twitter. I am the guy who has said that when the Sixers met with Rich Paul, Ben's agent, you don't discuss a future without each other unless you're already thinking about it, right? a couple doesn't talk about breaking up unless they've already thought about it before the conversation, right? So to me, Ben Simmons is getting traded. And I don't know who it's going to be yet, but Kevin, the one thing I am convinced of is this. It's not a 1-for-1. I think this is going to be a 3 or 4 team trade because I just think that for the Sixers, they don't want a ton of draft picks. And not every team that wants Simmons has the assets trade. I love the Timberwolves report, by the way. The Timberwolves report was a funny one. It's they desperately want Ben Simmons, but they will not trade Karl Anthony Towns or D'Angelo Russell. And I'm just like, okay, then how are you making the math work, right? Like, it's one of those deals where it's like, it's like somebody wants something, but it's like, but do you have what it takes to get what you want? We all would like a Lamborghini, but we don't have the money to get it, right? So I'm not saying Ben's a Lamborghini, but I'm just giving that analogy. Maybe that's the best analogy. The point is that, to me, I think that Ben Simmons can't be a 1-for-1 deal. I think the Sixers are going to have to get multiple teams involved. There's going to be a bunch of players going to be moved. This is going to be like the Harden deal. This is going to be like Shaq being traded to Miami. This is going to be like fill in the blank big trade that's happened. Remember the Andre Iguodala trade years ago? There was 4 or 5 teams involved in that psychopath deal. Like that was Andre Iguodala, for goodness sake.
I agree. If the Sixers do trade Ben Simmons, it's not going to be this simple, cookie cutter 1-for-1 thing. And I was going to lead into the Harden trade, so I'm glad you brought it up. I mean, look at how fast that became. And it was clear as day that Brooklyn and Houston, they wanted to do business with each other. And look how many other teams got to jump in and take some nice pieces. Indiana poached away Karis LeVert. Cleveland jumped in. They got Jared Allen. Oladipo moves, this, that, and the third. There were so many moving parts. I think when you're moving contracts of such magnitude, and like you said, these are teams that might not always have the assets or the draft capital or the correct pieces to where 2 teams may want to, a star may want to go somewhere, but that team he wants to go to might not have the necessary pieces to get that type of deal done. So I agree. If a Ben Simmons trade does come about, it's not going to be this simple thing. It's going to be a very complex trade because this is a very complex situation in that the Sixers have been successful with Ben Simmons. They don't necessarily need to trade him, but I would say they may want to, and they still want to win now. Joel Embiid is in his prime season. He, should have arguably been MVP last year. He's at the top of his game. The Sixers are trying to capitalize on that. So in doing so, you're not moving Ben Simmons for nice young players and draft picks 5-6 years down the line. You're trading him in a win now move, and you're only trading him necessarily in a deal that's going to move the needle.
Yeah, and to me, there are players who can move the needle who are not, elite superstars like Damian Lillard that would help this team. Like, for example, to me, if you trade away Ben Simmons and one of the players you get back in some 3-4 team deal is a sign-in trade with Toronto and getting Kyle Lowry, that puts you in a position to say, all right, we got our ball handler, we got the perimeter defense, we also got a guy who likes Danny Green and Danny Green likes him, so maybe Danny Green re-signs. I don't need Korkmaz. I'm just saying. So for me, I know I'm not trying to hate on Korkmaz, but I feel like the Korkmaz era has come and gone at this point. Like let him go sign with a team like, I don't know, Chicago or something, and go be some guy who gets 20-some minutes a game with them. I feel like the Sixers, they can take the Ben Simmons trade and do something similar what the Clippers did years ago. The Clippers acquired 10 guys in the Chris Paul deal. It was like it was ridiculous. So I'm not saying you can get that for Ben Simmons, but if you walk away with Kyle Lowry and some good pieces out of a trade for Ben Simmons, I'm good with that.
Yeah, here's the way I've pretty much broken it down. Looking at the Sixers, you've shown that you have your top guy, your alpha, in Joel Embiid. He has shown that he can be the top guy on a title team, and I think Tobias Harris showed this year that he can be a nice complementary piece. He could be that third best guy on a title team. I think you need to trade Ben Simmons for a guy that is, slightly better than Tobias Harris and, doesn't have to be as good as Joel Embiid and fitting along the both of them. It has to be a guard. It has to be someone who can run the offense, who can create on the outside. And I think if you can find that nice middle piece between Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris, and you can form a nice formidable big three that all makes sense, spacing wise, creation, you have the whole 9. I think that really does put the Sixers in a good position. So who that is, I mean, I know CJ McCollum's been throwing around the Malcolm Brogdon thing. Daryl Morey is known for making big splashes, and he is known for being one of the best executives in the league. If he does decide to trade Ben Simmons, I fully believe it's going to be the correct move. He's not going to trade him simply for the sake of trading him.
Kevin McCormick joining us here on Sports Bash Saturday, 97.3 ESPN FM, at Kevin MCC NBA on Twitter, Sixers beat writer for 97.3 ESPN.com and Sports Illustrated. So you mentioned Daryl Morey. We know Daryl doesn't sit on his hands. He's not a guy who's just going to be complacent. We saw the Al Horford deal happen this past offseason. You mentioned CJ McCollum. McCollum's an interesting conversation to me because he doesn't fit half the things you just said. He's not a primary ball handler. He's not a guy who's going to run the offense per se. But if you got instead of getting Kyle Lowry, you got another serviceable ball handling point guard to couple with McCollum, Harris, Embiid, and Danny Green. I'm just throwing that there as an example, or whoever. You have a pretty good lineup. So how do you feel about the CJ McCollum dynamic? Because we know Portland has talked about trading him before.
It definitely is an interesting one. I think of all the names that have come about, he's near the top of the list in terms of enticing things. Although he might not check every box, he does check a lot of them. And you also have to think about what he could do with an expanded role. I mean, as simply to put it, Doc Rivers expanded Seth Curry's role this season, and look at the way he blossomed in the postseason, the way he was able to play off Embiid. I think a lot of the similar things that you've done with Seth Curry, you could potentially do with a guy like CJ McCollum. And seeing what Seth Curry did in the playoffs, if you're putting an even more high-powered guard in CJ McCollum, a guy who can get it done on all three levels, he improved his three-point shot, can pull up, he can pretty much do whatever you want for him on the floor. You're putting that next to a guy like Embiid with the attention he draws. I think you could potentially see another step in CJ McCollum's game, even if it's just a tiny one. The only real question that poses is the defensive aspect of it. Having a backcourt of Seth Curry and CJ McCollum poses a lot of questions defensively, and it's something I don't know I'd be fully sound with, and it'd be something they would have to work through. But I think the CJ thing is very interesting. I think if you could get more pieces along with him in a potential Simmons deal involving multiple teams, it definitely is something I think that could be considerable.
All right, Kevin. So before we move on from the Ben Simmons and Sixers stuff, I got to ask you, I want to run back for you, the audience, and for you, the list of teams that have reportedly called the Sixers about Ben Simmons. I just want you to give us a quick hit on all of those teams about whether a deal makes sense or doesn't make sense, or whatever your just takeaway is from those teams calling. Okay. So we got the Sacramento Kings, we have the Golden State Warriors, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves, we have the Portland Trail Blazers, we have the New Orleans Pelicans, we have supposedly the San Antonio Spurs, we have supposedly the Miami Heat, and we supposedly have the Clippers, depending on who you want to believe. So of the 8 teams I mentioned, and anybody else out there I didn't mention, how do you feel about those teams calling about Ben Simmons?
Honestly, most of them only make sense if multiple teams are getting involved. The only one I could see two teams coming together is if we saw maybe some kind of potential Simmons for CJ McCollum swap. The rest of them doesn't really make sense. Sacramento, it was already reported they're not putting De'Aaron Fox on the table, and me personally, a package for Buddy Hield, Marvin Bagley doesn't make much sense to me if I'm the Sixers.
Right.
Indiana is another one we already saw. They reportedly turned down Malcolm Brogdon in the first. They don't really make that much sense to me from their standpoint as well. They're kind of a puzzling one for me just because of the way they already run the entire offense through Sabonis. I feel like if a team is to acquire Simmons, they might want to use him in that similar type of fashion. So I don't know how a pairing of Ben Simmons and Domantas Sabonis will work, let alone with Miles Turner on the floor as well. Golden State would definitely be a perfect fit for Ben, especially if they were to move on from Draymond Green. If you're going to take Ben Simmons and put him in a system in Golden State where he's, pretty much setting the table for Steph Curry and a returning Klay Thompson, I think that is a dream destination for him. What Golden State could offer in return isn't really that enticing. Minnesota, we already talked about. They don't want to move on from Russell, so you're pretty much just getting young pieces in return. Doesn't really make much sense. And then your Miamis and your Clippers, I don't necessarily see teams like that. First off, in no way does Jimmy Butler want to play with Ben Simmons again. So there's whoever reported that Miami is interested in Ben Simmons, I'm sorry, but there's no truth to that whatsoever.
I'm just throwing all the teams into the pot at this point.
In no way does Jimmy Butler want to be if he wants to be reunited with anyone, it's Joel Embiid. In no way does he want to be reunited with Ben Simmons. So there is absolutely no truth to that Miami rumor whatsoever.
Yeah, and of course we also know that the Cavs offered Colin Sexton,
Colin Sexton and Kevin Love,
and they said no to that. And of course Toronto.
And what's worse is people have really been entertaining that Cleveland offer as if no one watched the Al Horford experiment. Like, granted, Al Horford and Kevin Love are not the same guy, but we already saw how that worked.
The Al Horford experiment. What about the fact that the Sixers need a right now guy? Colin Sexton is not a right now guy. He's an up and coming guy.
Yeah. Not to mention he's extension eligible this summer. Another reason why Cleveland is looking to trade him is because they don't necessarily feel like he warrants a max, and reports are saying that's what he wants. So not only would you have to acquire Colin Sexton, but you'd likely have to throw money at him right away before he even puts a jersey on for you. So everything about that deal makes almost little to no sense if I'm the Sixers.
Yeah, I'm at the point right now, Kevin, where the only names I've heard outside of the big thing in the sky, which is Damian Lillard, to me, the only names that make sense so far are McCollum and Lowry. Most of the other names that I have heard and read and seen speculated just don't make a lot of sense, which makes me wonder, maybe the trade that actually does happen, we haven't even seen speculated yet.
Absolutely. In terms of from another team standpoint, reading the tea leaves, it really does feel like Minnesota badly wants to acquire him. And from their standpoint, it makes a lot of sense. I think if you can land Ben Simmons and keep, and have a core of D'Angelo Russell, Ben Simmons, Karl Anthony Towns, I think that's a very interesting big three. We know that Ben and Towns are friends off the court. D'Angelo Russell and Ben Simmons played together in high school. They're all in a similar timeline, getting ready to enter their prime years of their career together. So from a Minnesota standpoint, that trio is very enticing for their franchise. But in terms of what they're willing to give up in return for Simmons, it doesn't make sense from the Sixers standpoint.
Kevin McCormick joining us here on Sports Bash Saturday, 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Just follow at 973 ESPN. He is at Kevin MCC NBA on Twitter. Kevin, two more things I want to hit on you before I let you go. What is your perspective on the NBA Finals right now? Tied 2-2. The home team's just winning every game, it seems like. This series feels more and more like it's going 7 games. What is your takeaway right now heading into Game 5?
I'm with you. I feel like it really does feel like it's going to go 7. I don't think there's a clear winner just yet. And it's just been a great NBA Finals. I mean, both teams are so rootable to where, me personally, I've just been sitting back and rooting for good basketball, and it's pretty much delivered so far. I feel bad for anyone who is in that mindset of there's no big markets or big names in this final, so they decided not to watch, because you're truly depriving yourself of incredible play between this good Suns team, all this young talent, guys like Cam Johnson shining on a stage like this, DeAndre Ayton. We're seeing incredible plays like that Giannis block on DeAndre Ayton to pretty much seal Game 4 from Milwaukee. So I feel like it still is neck and neck, and it truly could come down to those final minutes of Game 7.
Yeah, Game 5 tonight. You're right here on 97.3 ESPN FM. Kevin, the other thing I feel like is this is the first NBA Finals in a while that we haven't had a villain. We haven't had a bad guy. We haven't had a guy to root against, right? Like there's nobody who really hates Giannis. Like, I've never met a person who doesn't like Giannis. You know what I mean? People love Middleton's story, right? People love Chris Paul. They would love to see Chris Paul, 36 years old, finally get his ring. People liked Devin Booker. He's a likable dude. There's nobody, even DeAndre Ayton is a lovable character in many ways. You know what I mean? So it's such a different dynamic to walk into a series and not be like, I feel like I have to choose one side or the other.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like part of that happened just because of the way the league marketed things in the past with the Warriors and the LeBron teams of old. So I agree. It's amazing to just watch two good young teams with so many great stories on both sides, between Giannis' story, a guy like Drew Holiday, who's been one of the most underrated players in the league for pretty much the last 6 or 7 years. Middleton, a second-round pick. Chris Paul finally getting to the finals with Monty Williams again. There's so many fun storylines that no matter how this final plays out, I feel like the basketball community is going to be happy in the end. All
right. So as I teased at the beginning of the segment, I obviously you finally watched the two movies we had talked about previously. Okay. Fast and Furious 9 is the first one. That was the one you and I talked about for weeks and weeks and weeks about watching. What was it? Your brother-in-law held you up. I mean,
yeah. He held me up. He just had to have a bachelor party that whole weekend. It wasn't even like a day kind of thing. The entire weekend, he abandoned me, so I had to sit on my hands.
Come on, man. You gotta check the schedule. Like you gotta have the weekend before, the weekend after. I mean, come on.
Exactly. Or I mean, listen, he could have just faked sick and stayed home from the bachelor weekend, and we could have went and seen the movie. So yeah, he held me up, but I've finally seen it.
All right. So how do you feel about it?
Definitely the most outlandish and unrealistic one of all the movies. But if you go in and you're just trying to watch just an insane movie and throw realism out the window, I actually heavily enjoyed it. I know a lot of people are skeptic about the realism and stuff, but I just kind of went in and enjoyed a good movie, and I feel like it delivered in my eyes.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I'm like you. I thought that the space thing was a little like outlandish and a little over the top. But I feel like it's almost like the franchise right now trying to outdo each other. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like they're trying to find something in the movie to outdo the last movie kind of thing. So I personally like the post-scene credit. I think it perfectly sets up Fast 10, which is supposed to be the final movie of the run, which is, the whole Justice for Han hashtag thing, Han face to face with the guy who supposedly killed him kind of thing. And this whole thing with Cypher is still out there. She's still the mysterious villain out there. They got to deal with her. So I'm assuming that's the whole gang's getting back together to take her down. That's what I'm assuming. F10 or whatever they call it, Fast 10 or the Furious 10 or whatever they call it, it's going to be about.
I'm shocked that series hasn't gone on the wave of like the Harry Potter and the Hunger Games, where like the final movie there was like a part 1 and a part 2. I wonder if they'll end up doing that with 10, just because there's so many knots that they can tie.
Here's the reason why I don't think they will do that, because if you look at those other movies you mentioned, they were mixed reviews at the box office. So, for example, the final 2 Hunger Games, they didn't do as well as people thought. Remember years ago, the final 2 Matrix movies, Matrix Revolutions and Matrix Reloaded, they didn't do as well as people thought. That was supposed to be one movie, became part 1 and part 2. We know the Avengers movie did very well, but that's Avengers. Marvel, it's $1 billion machine. Yeah. So that's kind of an exception to the rule. The Twilight 2-parter, that was kind of hit or miss at the box office. So the Harry Potter thing was a huge hit. But Harry Potter's a cult following too. Like people just love Harry Potter. So I don't really consider that the best example. So that's why I don't think the final Fast and Furious movie will be a 2-parter, but I do think the next Hobbs Shaw movie will probably be after the Fast and Furious 10 movie, because that will be the quote-unquote part 2. They'll spin that thing off, because remember, the Hobbs and Shaw movie had its own cliffhanger at the end as well.
I could see that.
All right, and really quick, Black Widow.
I thought it was meh. I mean, it was just your typical Marvel movie. I don't think it underwhelmed me, but I don't think it overwhelmed me either. So I went in, I didn't really have much expectations. I went in expecting a good Marvel movie, and I thought they delivered, but it really wasn't anything, outlandish or like the greatest movie I'd ever seen.
So here's what I said. People can listen to my full take on the Mutant Blitz podcast. Just search, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Pods, Mutant Blitz podcast. The full review's there. So we're not going to get into all of you right here. This is a sports station. But really quick, my thing is this. Black Widow's opening weekend made the same amount of money as Thor Dark World. So if you think about it like that, if Black Widow and Thor Dark World, which is the second Thor movie, are basically a similar range in terms of money, they're kind of the same movie too. Kind of like Iron Man 3. It's all these movies that were kind of like these strange bridge points. They weren't the best movies. They weren't the worst movies, but they were necessary movies to push the storylines along. That's kind of how I look at it.
I could agree to that. There definitely is some truth to that. It's like a glue guy movie. If I had to put it, if there was a Danny Green type of movie, that's what Black Widow is.
The Danny Green type of movie. That's an interesting one.
Hey, we know. Had to tie the sports back in.
There you go. Well, he is Kevin McCormick, covers Sixers for Sports Illustrated and 97.3 ESPN.com, at Kevin MCC NBA on Twitter. As always, he joined us live in the virtual flesh on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Still rocking the Hoskins Real Muto jerseys behind him.
Absolutely.
Hey, if the Phillies can figure things out, they're coming for that NL East.
Could you imagine Playoff baseball in Philadelphia again? Who'd have thought?
I can imagine it. I just don't know if it's going to happen or not. We're going to find out. Kevin, I always appreciate you jumping on, man. Take care of yourself.
You too, man. Thanks for having me.
Josh Hennig here on Sports Bash Saturday, 97.3 ESPN FM. Speaking of the Phillies, I promised Stephen Garrison on YouTube has 3 Phillies questions I'm going to get to. I think they're all pertinent. I wanted to talk Phillies today, and Stephen Garrison on YouTube just put the ball in the tee and set it up. All the guy do is hit the ball. I don't have to hit it hard. I just got to make contact, and we get a base hit out of it. So thanks to him for setting up for us. We'll get to those comments on the other side of the break. Also, text board is open, 609-403-0973 for all of you listening on 97.3 ESPN FM. Don't forget the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free. Thanks to First Bank of Seattle City for all your Phillies, Flyers, Sixers, Eagles, and high school sports coverage, as well as all of my columns like Top 10 Thursdays, Fitness Fridays, and more, all on the 97.3 ESPN mobile app and 97.3ESPN.com.
The NBA Finals continue.
Booker, body by Tucker, lifts it for the rim. Block shot by Giannis on the alley-oop for Tim.
After dropping games 1 and 2 in Phoenix, Giannis and the Bucks respond with 2 straight in Milwaukee. Now the series returns to Phoenix for a pivotal Game 5. Game 5 of the Suns and Bucks. Coverage begins tonight at 8 Eastern on ESPN Radio.
The NBA Finals, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM, South Jersey's sports leader.
On some models excludes Corvette with GM financing, excludes prior sales. See dealer for details.
By now, most people know that nobody beats a Bennett Chevrolet deal. Because when you buy a new Chevy from Bennett, you pay the same as any GM supplier employee pays. That's right, not 1 cent more. Plus, Bennett gives you all the rebates that can add up to 25% off MSRP. That's up to 25% off. And of course, Bennett Chevy has 0% financing available. Think about all the ways you save at Bennett Chevrolet. Plus, right now, we want your trade. So we're paying a minimum $7,000 for any clunker. You heard right, a minimum $7,000 towards any pre-owned in stock. Nobody pays more than Bennett. You can imagine how much more we'll pay for a good trade. And there's more. You'll never feel any sales pressure and never waste time with stressful negotiating because our non-commissioned sales staff is paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Nobody beats Bennett Chevrolet, and we mean nobody. Find new roads at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Why would someone looking for a mortgage at the Jersey Shore take a loan from a company in Detroit or North Carolina or some other far-off place? Online mortgages promise a lot but don't always deliver. First Bank of Seattle City knows the Jersey Shore. We are local lenders. We use local appraisers and provide in-house processing. We understand the unique obstacles of financing in Cape May County. Don't take a chance. Local banking is better. Let us guide you. First Bank of Sea Isle City.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Tired of rodents getting into your business? Viking Pest Control offers 24/7 rodent prevention exclusively from Viking Pest, state-of-the-art smart digital rodent control. Visit vikingpest.com/smart for info. This is Sports Bash Saturday with Josh Hennig, live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios. Here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig here, Sports Bash Saturday, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, and we are live here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where you can join the conversation. Follow 97.3 ESPN. We're live in the Matt Blatt Kia Studios here on 97.3 ESPN. Also, text board is still open for you, 609-403-0973 to get on the conversation. Listen to 97.3 ESPN FM, the 97.3 ESPN mobile app, 609-403-0973. We spent the first hour talking a lot of football. Deshaun Watson, Jalen Hurts, NFC East, Xavier Howard came up in the conversation. We just talked Ben Simmons and the Sixers and the NBA Finals with Kevin McCormick. So you can chime in on all those things if you want as well. Again, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where I want to hit on some Philly stuff. And Steven Garrison commenting, well, he brought up a lot of things, but he was very nice to take all of his questions and lump them into one thing I can just click on and pop on the screen. So good job by him for being very helpful today. So thank you, sir, for doing that. So he had a couple things. First of all, Byron Buxton. All right. So Byron Buxton, for those who didn't see, there's a report out there. I believe it was John Heyman who said that apparently if the Twins make Buxton available, that the Phillies would be very interested in acquiring him. And it's not a crazy thing because realistically, they don't have a center fielder. And Buxton is a guy who has one more year of control and being arbitration eligible. So it would make a lot of sense if the Phillies were to go after him and the Twins to trade him, because you look at where he is right now. He's 27 years old. He has 4 years of major league experience. He has one more year of arbitration. He's not going to cost you a ton of money this year or next year. And if you decide not to trade a ton for him, if you decide to move on, it won't cost you an arm and a leg. The problem with Buxton that people have to keep in mind is this. Buxton has an injury history, okay? Think of Buxton as a better version of Roman Quinn, okay? Buxton has a history of just not being able to play full seasons, all right? He's only played over 100 games in a year once in his entire career. And that was when he was 23 years old, and he had an okay but not great stat line, all right? You know, the on-base percentage was meh. The stolen base numbers were solid. They were good. He won a Gold Glove. So he's a very talented player. Again, I said Buxton to me is a much better version of Roman Quinn. And I think that as you've seen in recent years, that he's just had trouble staying on the field, okay? 28 games in 2018, 87 games in 2019. Last year during the COVID-shortened season might have been his best year of his career. 13 home runs, 27 RBIs, and 39 games. So Buxton is very, very talented. If he's made available, I wouldn't mind seeing the Phillies go get him. All right? I think he's very talented, and he makes sense for center field. My only problem with Buxton trade is that if you walk out of the deadline without some pitching, I can't take the Phillies seriously this year. They have blown 22 saves this year. If you have 11 less blown saves, you might be winning the National League East right now. Think about that. The Phillies right now are 3.5 games behind the Mets. If they won at least 10 of those 22 blown save attempts, 10 of those games, 10 more wins were on their resume, they'd have a 6.5 game lead in the National League East. So to me, while Buxton is very attractive, you got to get bullpen pitching. The problem is that I don't know exactly what the Twins are willing and not willing to give up. I don't think the Phillies have the talent to trade to get a guy like Jose Barrios. But there are two other pitchers on the Twins who might interest you, okay? Obviously, J Happ is out there, but he's got a horrible ERA, so he's a name that I'm not interested in him. The guy who's a starter I would be intrigued by is Michael Pineda. He's been injured this year, but he has a solid ERA. He's a guy that we know who has a lot of talent in that arm. He has potential to be something if you wanted to go out and get him with Buxton in a deal. Because you have to give up something significant to get Buxton. So to me, if you are going to the Twins and say, look, we're going to do our one-stop shopping, okay? If we can walk out of a deal and give up maybe more than we want to, but we walk out of there with, say, Buxton, Pineda, and let's say Robles, their closer, okay? He's not a big name out there, but he's a guy with 9 saves on the year, a 4.15 ERA, solid but not great pitcher. Either him or Taylor Rogers are both 30 years old. And the reason why I bring them up is because we mentioned about Richard Rodriguez of the Pirates last week on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. When you have guys who are either going to be free agents or who are arbitration eligible, it puts you in a position to say, look, we'll take these guys off your hands. We'll give you something where maybe you weren't going to get it before. Robles is going to be a free agent after this year. So he's a guy you could throw into a deal and say, look, we need another bullpen pitcher. We know he has closing experience. He's done with the Twins. He did it with the Angels. Or a guy like Taylor Rogers, who is arbitration eligible next year and wouldn't be a free agent until 2023. And a guy like Rogers is somebody who he also has closing experience. He also is a good pitcher. And he was an all-star this year. So either one of those guys in a deal with Buxton, I would like to see done. That's what I would do if I was the Phillies. I would ask about Rogers and Robles and maybe Pineda, because I'm going to be like, look, I know you want something significant for a guy who was the second overall pick in the draft. He's got phenomenal talent. Yes, he had injury issues, but he's still a phenomenal talent. So I understand I might have to give up more than I would like to. So I want something in return. I want that bullpen pitcher or two. I want that starting pitcher and that bullpen pitcher. So to me, the Buxton situation is not just about getting Buxton, but about parlaying that deal to say, I want pitchers as well. That's how I would look at the Twins right now. I look at the opportunity to get multiple guys out of them. And to me, Rogers, who was an all-star this year, 3.35 ERA, Robles, he's got 9 saves on the year. Also, people know me. I love my strikeout to inning ratio. Rogers has 54 strikeouts to 37 innings. I like that number. I think that's where I would go if I were the Phillies with Buxton. Now, the second question that Steve brought up was about Aaron Nola. So for those who don't know the full story, here's the deal. And I figured it all out yesterday thanks to Frank Close, who joined us on Game Night. So basically, Aaron Nola went through the COVID protocol because he was considered a close contact of other Phillies who tested positive. Now, apparently the rules are that if you have the COVID vaccine, one of the COVID vaccines, the baseball rule is that if you don't have symptoms and you were a close contact, you don't have to go into the protocol as long as you test negative. If you have symptoms and you don't test negative, and if you do test negative but you have symptoms, you still have to go into isolation. Or if you test positive, you have to go into isolation. So basically, the way it works is that they're theorizing that if you have the vaccine, that as long as you don't have symptoms, you're good to go. That's their working theory. Now, Aaron Nola basically doesn't have the vaccine. He has chosen not to get the vaccine. My position is this on Nola. If Nola doesn't want the vaccine, no one should pressure him into it. Because frankly, there's no evidence that if you have the vaccine, you won't get COVID. All right. Jay Williams, who's covering the NBA Finals, will not be on any more broadcasts the rest of the NBA Finals until he tests negative multiple times because he has tested positive. He had the vaccine. All right. Chris Paul got the vaccine, missed 2 games of the NBA Western Conference Finals, even though he had the vaccine. So just because you have the vax doesn't mean the guy is completely protected. And I think that if these leagues care about the safety of the athlete, they need to have the same rules for vaccinated and non-vaccinated. Because if you genuinely care about the athlete's safety, then you're not going to let there be that margin of error. What if someone gets the vaccine, they get COVID later on, and they get horribly sick, and it messes up the rest of their career? I don't want to see that happen to anybody. So if Noah doesn't want to take the vaccine, that's his choice. Might be a medical reason why, okay? There are people out there who have legitimate medical reasons why they can't have the vaccine. So this might not be a personal choice 100%. It might not be a religious choice. It might be a medical thing. And we don't know all the details because we're not supposed to know the details. You know, there's HIPAA laws for a reason. And it's not our right to know everybody's medical business, okay? So that's where I stand on the NOLA thing. I think that these sports, if they generally care about protecting the athlete, they need to protect everybody, not just the people who have certain, medical exceptions or all that stuff. All right. At the end of the day, listen, if Aaron Nola doesn't want to have the vaccine, that's his right. I respect his right. It's a free country. All right. Nobody should be forcing anybody to take anything that they don't want to, okay? There are medical examples, for example, of people who didn't go through chemotherapy, who used alternative science to recover from cancer, all right? Doesn't work for everybody, but it works for some people. So, listen, there are examples of people who didn't use certain procedures, certain medical things, and they got recovered from things. Remember, Kobe Bryant went and got an illegal procedure in Germany. He had that platelet procedure. They injected into his knees and into his Achilles to heal him. It is not approved by the FDA. It is not being able to be done in America. But he went and got it done and is able to elongate his career. If somebody wants to make a medical decision, that's on them. You want to go get stem cells and go to some other country, get a medical procedure, fine. You don't want to get the vaccine, fine. To me, at the end of the day, this stuff is very murky. And I think it's completely unfair for us to, give the middle finger or chastise people because they made a personal decision. All right. We don't know everybody's personal situation. And it's completely unfair to judge people unless we have all the facts and information. It's one thing to judge Cole Beasley because he's being brash and abrasive on social media and acting like he almost wants attention for his decision to not take the vaccine. It's another thing for Aaron Nola, who, if we didn't have this situation happen with him being in close contact, we might have never known that he didn't take the vaccine. That's his right. And honestly, I think it's a little dicey, the fact that we're getting everyone's medical information all the time. I think we're crossing some boundaries that we wouldn't have crossed otherwise if it wasn't for this pandemic. I think there's a level of realization that we still don't have all the facts and information about how people are getting COVID, how this thing is spread, these variants of the COVID strain. Supposedly one variant has less symptoms than another variant. It's just, there's so much to it that it's unfair to paint everything black and white. Now, the Cole Hamels thing, I think it sounds interesting. Okay. The Cole Hamels reunion potential with the Phillies. Obviously, the Phillies were one of the teams that went and watched him. Now, they were also the same team that watched Anibal Sanchez. Anibal Sanchez didn't get a job in Major League Baseball as well. But Cole Hamels, obviously, there's interest because, one, he's a former Philly, and two, he's only 2 years removed from a very good season. That season he had with the Cubs, where he started 27 games, he did have a 3.81 ERA. He did pitch 141 innings. So, and he had 143 strikeouts in those 141 innings. So he's only 2 years removed from that. He's coming off an injury. If he could be to this team what Pedro Martinez was in 2009, I'm good with it. If he can be productive, I'm good with it. But I don't want to just sign him just for the sake of signing him. I think it'd be a nice story. I think it's well known that Cole Hamels loves the Philadelphia area. He still vacations in the South Jersey area. He loves South Jersey. He loves Philadelphia. Him and his wife still do charity work in the city. So Cole Hamels coming back to Philadelphia makes a lot of sense for him, but doesn't make a lot of sense for the Phillies. I wasn't at his tryout. I don't know how well it went. I think that's something that we're going to find out over the weekend when reports come out about how the tryout went and how teams are approaching him. There's a lot of rumors that if he pitched well, that it would be a bidding war between the Yankees, the Phillies, and a couple other teams. But the Yankees and the Phillies are the two teams that are most prominent in that conversation. And if I'm Cole Hamels and it comes down to a bidding war, I got a tough decision to make. So it might not just be about the Phillies bringing him back. It's about how he looked in the workout, who's trying to acquire his services, and what he really wants. You know, if he can extend his career and be another Jamie Moyer, then maybe there's a possibility that he can keep pitching. Because like I said, just 2 years ago with the Cubs, he had a good season. Not a great season, a good season. And if you can get a version of that again and get him back in the Phillies uniform, then I'm all for it. I don't think we're ever going to see all-star Cole Hamels anymore. You know, that Cole Hamels you traded to the Texas Rangers in his early 30s when he was still, you know, chugging along with 200 innings every year. I don't think you're going to see that Cole Hamels again. But I think you can see a version of Cole Hamels like you saw with the Cubs, where he's getting roughly almost a strikeout an inning, maybe a little less than that, maybe a 3.5, 3.8 ERA, effective pitcher, allowing no more than a hit per inning. That guy can still work for the Phillies. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Great stuff. I love the question with the Phillies. Those are 2 or 3 things I want to hit on about Cole Hamels and the Buxton rumors. Great stuff from Stephen for teeing that up for me. So, Josh Hennig here, Sports Bash Saturday, 97.3 ESPN. We'll wrap up the show coming up on the other side. Keep the comments coming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Also, the text board is open, 609-403-0973, right here on 97.3 ESPN FM and the 97.3 ESPN mobile app. It's free thanks to First Bank of Seattle City.
This week on Sunday Night Baseball, the second half kicks off with baseball's fiercest rivalry, the Boston Red Sox at the New York Yankees. The Sox sit high atop the AL East, with the Yankees looking to bounce back from a disappointing first half.
We've dug ourselves a hole here. If you're going to climb back into it, we got to perform better.
They're going to have to do something, and they're going to have to do something now.
The Red Sox and Yankees. Coverage begins tomorrow at 6 Eastern.
This is the play-by-play home of Sunday Night Baseball, exclusively on 97.3 ESPN FM.
East Coast Roofing and Siding, protecting what you love and own. East Coast Roofing and Siding, trust us with your family and home.
Hey South Jersey, this is Sean Steitler with East Coast Roofing, Siding, and Windows. With over 40 years in business, East Coast has been providing South Jersey with award-winning work backed by lifetime warranties. Our teams consist of GAF, Master Elite, certified contractors, CertainTeed 5-star contractors, and Provia certified installers. What does this mean for you? Your projects will be handled by well-trained professionals. Trust East Coast Roofing, Siding, and Windows with your next project. Visit our website at eastcoastroofing.com or call us today for a free consultation at 609-646-1444. Remember, South Jersey, when you call, we'll show up.
East Coast Roofing and Siding, trust us with your family and home.
It's summer in the Garden State. Now's the time to get sweet Jersey Fresh peaches and nectarines. I'm New Jersey Secretary of Agriculture Doug Fisher reminding you to enjoy these Jersey Fresh gems. Find Jersey Fresh peaches today at your favorite market. Stay loyal to local Jersey Fresh.
Live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios, here's Josh Hennig.
Josh Hennig wrapping up the show. Sports Bash Saturday, 97.3 ESPN FM. Thanks again to Kevin McCormick for joining us early in the show. Great conversation today on the YouTube and Facebook platforms. Also, the text board 609-403-0973. I promised you guys before we get out of here, I'll get a couple more of your comments, but I also want to get your FanDuel Sportsbook pick for the weekend. So last weekend, we went 4-0 on the UFC picks and 2-2 on the NBA picks. So we're going to try to do a little better on the NBA. Not a lot of value for UFC this weekend, so we're not going to go down that road at least this weekend. I mean, there is one small pick we can throw out there if you so desire, but right now I want to go to the same game parlays. Again, promo code Hennig when you sign up with FanDuel Sportsbook. Same game parlays, also same game parlay insurance you can get through FanDuel Sportsbook. So here's my same game parlay for tonight. I'm riding two of the picks I've rode the entire postseason. Giannis over 4.5, so over 4 assists. DeAndre Ayton at least 10 rebounds. I'm also going to go with Devin Booker to score 25 or more points. I think he's back at home. He's going to be comfortable. He's going to go out there. And I got the Suns winning the game. So a 4-leg parlay. Giannis, 4 or more assists. DeAndre Ayton, 10 or more rebounds. Devin Booker, 25 or more points. Suns money line. That's plus 184. $20 wager will net you 36 to win, a total of 56 to walk away with. So some good value there over on FanDuel Sportsbook. And a lot of you guys asking about the UFC fights. Small card on ESPN. I don't love the card. I think the card is okay. It's not great. Obviously, the main headliner is Khabib Nurmagomedov's protege, Islam Makhachev. He's not great odds. Personally, I would stay away from this card. If you're going to throw money on anybody, Jeremy Stevens is plus 200. He's fighting Gamrot, so it's an option there if you want to throw a little money. Again, promo code Hennig when you sign up with FanDuel Sportsbook. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. A lot of great stuff today. I know there were a lot of comments I didn't get to. Great stuff from all of you on the YouTube channel. Again, thanks to Kevin McCormick for joining the show. I'll be back on Monday at 6 p.m. for game night here on 97.3 ESPN. Mike Gill is back on Monday for the Sports Bash at 2 p.m. Don't forget Billy Schweim in the locker room tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. He and Pete Thompson got you for Sunday morning right here on 97.3 ESPN FM, 97.3 ESPN mobile app. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay hydrated.
South Jersey's sports station, 97.3 ESPN. Wake up weekday morning 6 to 10 with Keyshawn, Jay, Will, and Zubin. Followed by Greeny with Mike Greenberg from 10 till noon. At noon, it's Bart and Hahn. Then from 2 to 6 p.m., it's South Jersey's #1 rated sports talk show, The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. And from 6 to 7, Josh Hennig hosts Game Night. Plus 97.3 ESPN. ESPN is your exclusive play-by-play home for Philadelphia Eagles, Sixers and Flyers, the NBA playoffs and finals, Major League Baseball, and the World Series, the NFL Draft, Monday, Thursday, and Sunday Night Football, the NFL playoffs, and Super Bowl 56. We are South Jersey's sports leader. 97.3 ESPN. And listen anywhere with the free mobile app.